Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a great weekend. We got a great show for you today, starting off your week here. I had a really good weekend. I did not win another jackpot, so I came up a little short in that. I guess 5 in a row was as much as the fish gods would allow me to have. But I had a really good trip, and the weather was beautiful, spectacular. So I hope you enjoyed your weekend as much as I enjoyed mine. We got a great show for you today. We got a few good topics here. The first one is, are the Democrats divided over the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? You know, things are really heating up over in Israel right now, and the Democrats are putting out this idea that they're divided, that basically Biden is pro-Israel and the squad and the likes of them, I call them the Twitter twats, I think it's more of a descriptive term to them, are like, you know, pro-Palestinian. There's this big divide, and I don't think there's that big a divide there, and we'll talk about that. And then the next one, this next title, Buttigieg, the Secretary of Transportation, I do believe, says pipelines are the way to go. Now, if you look, I got to admit something. If you look at the show descriptions, you'll see a different title there. It says pile lines. Well, I meant pipelines, but that's the danger of waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, which is what I do every day to get ready for the show. So it's Buttigieg says pipelines are the way to go. So there's some mixed messaging at best coming out of the White House, and we'll talk about that. But before I go any further, I always have to talk about our sponsor, our sponsors, Big Daddy Unlimited, top of the list, otherwise known as BDU. Look above the show, no matter when or where you're watching it, and you will see links to our sponsors. Click on them, and in this case, Big Daddy Unlimited, and you will get factory direct pricing delivered directly to your door on guns, ammunition, over 100,000 other items that are related, like tactical gear, protective wear, survival gear, all survival supplies, all of that kind of stuff and more you will see at Big Daddy Unlimited. Check them out, your Second Amendment headquarters, because they defend your Second Amendment on a daily basis. And then we have patriotthreads.org, apparel with a purpose. They're a total fulfillment center. Go there. Remember, important to remember that JMT, the initials of our show, for 20% off of everything they do. Patriotthreads.org can help you with charity events. They produce magnificent sportswear with a patriotic theme for the charity of your choice. They'll help you with all aspects of it. Check it out, patriotthreads.org. Remember, JMT for 20% off. Then Recoil, like Recoil TV. They have their own YouTube channel, and we've partnered up with them. We have a channel within the channel. Of course, we have our own YouTube channel, spell it all the way out, John Martin Talks, and we need more subscribers and views there, so please step it up on that. But Recoil TV allows us to have a channel in their channel, which means that we actually have our show archived there on a daily basis. Now, Recoil TV is a special place as well, because they produce high-quality videos about all things Second Amendment, from demonstrating the latest weaponry, ammunition, all of that stuff, and we're honored to be a partner with them. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes now of the stories. The first one comes to you via the Wall Street Journal. Democratic divide over Israel puts pressure on Biden. So they're basically saying the Democrats, this picture, I got to talk about this picture for just a minute. This picture is of Palestine, if you want to call it. That's what the Democrats call it, Palestine. There is no Palestine. It's Gaza is where it is. And, you know, the interesting thing about it, and it kind of shows the media bias, try this out at home yourself. Experiment if you want to. Google, of course, Google is of the devil. I'm just saying, just reminding you, there are other places to go. But Google it up and try to find like pictures of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, like bombings or something like that. For the most part, you'll see 10-to-1 at least of the Palestinian occupied territories and destruction like this. It is hard to find a picture of Israeli occupied areas being destroyed. Interesting, right? If you want to pull up a video, and we'll show one here in just a moment that I did find, But about 90% of the videos will be about Israelis bombing the Palestinians. I'm just saying there appears to be some bias. Just saying. But check it out yourself. Do your own experimentation. All right, let's get into the article. Washington. President Biden faces a significant political foreign policy challenge as fighting intensifies between Israel and Hamas, and Democrats have become more divided on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Now, I don't know how divided they truly are. Of course, you have Jewish Americans that are Democrats, elected leaders like Chuck Schumer, and I'm not saying Chuck Schumer is pro-Palestinian, but he's going to spout certain things that just are going to be the pro, if you want to call it, Israel line, because he's not only is he Jewish, but he's also, got to appease a big Jewish constituency in New York. And I'm not accusing Chuck Schumer of anything. I'm just using him as an example. But the Democratic Party as a whole, I don't think is all that divided. I've played this video before, but of course, if I play it, it bears replaying or repeating, as I like to say. Let me set this up. This is 2012 at the actual Democratic convention, and they get ready to go through a voice vote. Keep in mind, they need 2/3 of the people in this convention to vote to amend the party platform. And they're basically trying to amend the party platform to essentially put God in the platform and to make Jerusalem the capital of Israel, which every president since Israel was founded has said they wanted to do, but only one actually did it. Any guess who that was? Yeah, old Donnie Trump, man. Donald J. Trump, President Trump's the only one that actually promises made, promises kept. But I want you to hear this, because you remember the Democratic Party is the defender of democracy. But look how much they struggled in 2012 with the God question and the pro-Israel, I suppose, question. Check it out.
As the chair, I come before you today to discuss two important matters related to our party's national platform. As an ordained United Methodist minister, I am here to attest and affirm that our faith and belief in God is central to the American story and informs the values we've expressed in our party's platform. In addition, President Obama recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and our party's platform should as well. Mr. Chairman, I have submitted my amendment in writing, and I believe it is being projected on the screen for the delegates to see. I move adoption of the amendment as submitted and shown to the delegates.
A motion has been made. Is there a second? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, the matter requires a 2/3 vote in the affirmative. All those delegates in favor say aye. All those delegates opposed say no. In the opinion of the... Let me do that again. All of those delegates in favor say aye. All those delegates opposed say no. I guess...
And then you've got to let them do what they're going to do.
I'll do that one more time. All those delegates in favor say aye. All those delegates opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 have voted in the affirmative. The motion is adopted, and the platform has been amended as shown on the screen.
The saviors of democracy right there. I mean, every time I look at that, it saddens me, but it makes me chuckle, man. The saviors of democracy. And I love the little white, she must be a white supremacist. Wasn't that lady like white coming up there? Well, you gotta rule and let them do what they're gonna do. I guess the white people are taking over. I don't know, man. It is absolutely crazy. But let me ask you this, because it's pretty clear that at best it was a 50-50 tie. I would say that the Bernie crowd, which is the ones that were yelling no the loudest there, I'd say they probably won it, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt. It certainly wasn't 2/3, right, that wanted to put God. I mean, they want God in there, man. They get God out, man. Ego, man, easing God out. They want to get him out of there. God got to go. The Democratic Party got no room for God. And then, of course, Obama, the pastor says that President Obama was for Jerusalem being the capital. No, he wasn't. That's a total lie. He mouthed it like the rest of the Democrats and, quite frankly, Republicans. He gave lip service to it. If you're for it, then you get it done. Donald Trump actually got it done in no time at all. It wasn't that big a deal, right? And he even saved us about $1 billion in moving that embassy there, and they never talk about that. But the Democrats, man, let me just ask you this. So they're not very pro-Israel. They're certainly not very pro-God in 2012, right? Math serves me right. How long has that actually been? Like 9 years? Do you think they're more pro-Israel now than they were then? I would bet you if they took a vote right now, the no's would probably get the 2/3 to kill that. So even though the Democrats would probably rule the other way, because they are the saviors of democracy. They believe in democracy until it don't work their way. And then, you got to rule the way you're going to rule, that little chick says up there, man. And it just strikes me as funny. Maybe I'm just in a good mood today. All right, let's move along. As the violence nears the end of its first week, talking about the Israeli-Palestinian occupied territories conflict, let me back up one. I was going to say this later. I got to ask this, and I'm just asking for a friend. Why would any person, any Democrat, or any person that is pro-Israeli, I don't care if you're Jewish or not, but certainly if you're Jewish, if you're pro-Israel, why would you ever vote for the Democrats? I just don't get it, but that's just me. I'm asking for a friend. As the violence nears the end of its first week, the president, God help us, that's Joe Biden they're talking about, has sought to diffuse tensions while avoiding taking sides in the conflict, drawing criticism from many in his party, including the squad, the twats. Republicans have pressed him to take a firmer stance in defense of Israel. So I ask this question. I'm in a questioning mood today. There was a time in our country where you could ask questions, and I'm still one of those people that wants to ask questions. But why the conflict, and why now? Why now? Why are they doing it now? Why didn't they do it 6 months? What has changed about the Israeli, Palestinian, and Hamas and Palestinian? What has changed? Why did they decide that they could fire rockets now, talking about Hamas? Well, the only thing I could think of that's really changed is DJT is not in the White House anymore. I'm just pointing it out. Do you think that might have had anything to do with it? I don't know. It may or may not have, but why are they changing now? The White House said that Mr. Biden spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas in separate calls on Saturday. Why are they talking to Mahmoud Abbas, man? Why? I mean, what has he got to do with anything? I know he represents the Palestinian Authority, but make no mistake about it, no matter what side you're on or if you're independent, it's Hamas that's running the show over there when it comes to the Palestinian side. It's not the Palestinian Authority. It's not Mr. Abbas. It rhymes with Abbas. It's Hamas. So, they might as well talk directly with him because it really is irrelevant what the PLO says. The White House on Friday said it was engaged extensively in behind-the-scenes discussions. Does that mean Biden's on the telephone with him? Palestinians and other key, probably Obama, probably Rice, that Obama's minion in the White House. Palestinians and other key players in the region following the Israeli military launching the most intense bombardment of its 5-day military operation in the Gaza Strip, adding tank and artillery fire from the ground to its campaign airstrikes. So it's interesting that that what they're doing here and the timing of it. And let me just tell you, Benjamin Netanyahu, I mean, he's something else, right? I mean, he the reason why they don't like him, beyond the fact that he's strong, is that he's a friend of Donald Trump. He loves him some Donald Trump. They've even named a city over there after Donald Trump, let alone streets. And I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't some little Jewish kids named Donald because of that. Benjamin Netanyahu is the key to the whole thing. Why don't we just support him and forget about the rest? In a statement in the White House at talking about the Eid celebration, the Eid al-Tur, I think, celebrates a Muslim celebration about like the ending of fasting. I don't know that much about it. But in a statement about that celebration, Mr. Biden said Friday, both Palestinians, including in Gaza, and Israelis equally deserve to live in dignity, safety, and security. Now, I would agree that people need to live in that, right? But equally, there's always this equivocation there, trying to make each side like equally guilty or equally innocent or whatever. It seems that way. The press certainly puts all about Palestine, Palestinians. There is no Palestine, by the way. But let me ask you this. I'm in a questioning mood. Before I ask you this question, I got to tell you a funny story. I got a friend of mine. I've been letting him remain anonymous, but I've said his name once or twice, and he's just out there, man. He's one of them guys that says stuff you wish you would say. My buddy Cliff, he watches the show quite often. He just came back from a trip from Maine, and it was during the CDC's, mask deal where 1 minute they're for masks, the next minute they're saying we're all right. So he gets on the plane, and he's not wearing, you have to wear a mask on there. And he takes his mask off, and there's two young ladies sitting beside him. Cliff's probably about my age. And they question him about that, right? And he says, well, the CDC and even President Biden says I can take the mask off, so I don't like to wear the mask. And he said, well, he asked a young lady, why do you wear the mask? And she said, well, it makes me feel safer. And when I see other people with a mask on, it sends me a message that they really care about me. And he said, well, you know what? When I see somebody wearing a mask, especially when they're outside, he said, the message it sends to me is there are a lot of people in this country willing to take as much stuff shoved down their throat as the government will allow them to be. So that pretty much ended the conversation. I just thought that was funny about questioning. But questioning, let me ask you this question. Let me get back to this. Let me reread this statement in case you're just tuning in. In a statement, Mr. Biden said Friday, both Palestinians, including in Gaza, and Israelis equally deserve to live in dignity, safety, and security. So I'm just asking for a friend. How many Israeli parents, now you talk about loving of children, and I'm not saying that Palestinian people don't love their children, but I just got to ask this question. How many Jewish or Israeli parents routinely strap bombs on their teenagers and say, go on out there and make us proud? I mean, how many actually do that? I think the number is pretty close to zero. I'm just asking for a friend. But Biden said this. He went on to say, no family should have to fear for their safety within their own home or place of worship. Amen, President Biden. Finally, you're saying something I agree with. No one, I'm going to quote him again, no family should have to fear for their safety within their own home or place of worship. And kind of like maybe these folks right here. Now, just to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that is not East Jerusalem. That is not West Jerusalem. That's not in the Gaza Strip. That's outside of St. Louis, Missouri. And these people at the McCloskeys, man, are out there defending their home. And we didn't know it at the time, but Ms. McCloskey's out there with a dummy gun. I mean, you talk about cojones. She's out there facing the mob down with a prop pistol. It's not even a real one. Now, that AR-15, I think, that Mr. McCloskey had was probably, and he looked like he was ready to pop it if he needed. And I tell you all the time, ladies and gentlemen, you have not only the Second Amendment, which I remind you that BDU is your Second Amendment headquarters, check them out. But not only do you have the Second Amendment right, but I tell you, in my opinion, and I'd say this all over the world, including in Israel, you have a God-given, in my opinion, human right to defend your home, your family, and your property. And that's all the McCloskeys were doing. But they were, guess what happened in America, Mr. Biden? They were arrested and charged with a crime for defending their own home. Man, that is where we currently are in this country. And it is sad. It is sad. But we're going to fight against it. You and me. Join me. Join me. Become a follower of ours. Like our Facebook, all our social media sites. Push it out there. Check out our sponsors. Spread the word far and wide. Hang in there with us because we're going to get even bigger in the coming months as we build a brand new platform with the help of Big Daddy Unlimited. More will be revealed about that later. Mr. Biden hasn't named, listen to this. This is sad, really. Mr. Biden hasn't named a U.S. ambassador to Israel, which several groups who work on Israeli-Palestinian issues have urged him to do. So Biden has not named an ambassador to Israel. Our best friend and ally, especially in that region, but I would make the case around the world, Israel is at the top of that list, and we don't have an ambassador. He haven't even put a name forward yet for an ambassador. Well, I guess he's just too busy destroying our republic than he is worried about the only democracy in the Middle East. I'm just saying, man, why would you not have somebody appointed to that already? Back to the story. More than 24 House Democrats sent a letter to Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, piece of work he is, earlier this year. If you're asking for leadership from that dude, did you see the Alaska summit about a month ago? There's no leadership coming out of Blinken, man. He's like can I have another one? That's what he basically told the Chinese. Slap me again and can I have another? More than 24 House Democrats sent a letter to Secretary of State Anthony Blinken earlier this week, calling on him to use diplomatic pressure. You think he's capable of that? Pressure to prevent displacement of Palestinians from East Jerusalem. But they don't need to. The Palestinians, see, this is the thing that never gets reported. If you want to, Israel is the only democracy, as I just stated a minute ago, the only democracy in the Middle East. You know, this is something that never gets talked about. The fact that there's only one country in the entire Middle East that lets Arabs, including Palestinians, Muslims, you don't even have to be a Muslim faith, not all Arabs are Muslims, most are, but there's only one country in the entire Middle East, even all them, gold and our rich countries with the oil and everything else, only one country allows Arabs to vote. Really vote in an open democracy. You know what country that is? Well, it isn't Iran. I'll give you a hint. It's Israel. Israel, the freest Arabs in the Middle East are in Israel. There is no, I said this last week, and if I say it, it certainly bears repeating. You can go back and watch our podcast on multiple platforms, including America's Voice News, by the way. If you don't know about America's Voice News, they are a great alternative to the mainstream media. America's Voice News, Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, Channel 219, Dish Network, and the Pluto channel. Free apps on Android and iPhone. Our show is archived on there. We don't have a daily live show on there, but our show is archived on there. Go to America's Voice News, wherever you're streaming. Look under the shows tab, and our show is broken up into like 16-minute segments for your viewing pleasure. But, I've said this many, many times, and I'm just going to say it flat out. There is no two-state solution. I know there's proposals, but there's not ever going to be one. If there is, then Israel will be gone. There is only one state solution. And the solution to the Middle East, really, and especially to that area of the world, the solution to the Palestinian conflict is Israel. Israel is the solution. Now, I'm not saying they're perfect. One of my great listeners, Chala, I give you a howdy, how are you, chimed in about that. And don't misunderstand me. I'm not blaming Israel. I'm just saying human beings have faults. There's a book out there somewhere we might ought to get back to reading that says we all fall short of the glory. So I'm not saying that the Israelis are always right. But what I am saying is they're not really the problem. Israel is the solution. If they're ready to live in peace with their Arab brothers, their Palestinian brothers, all they got to do is come into Israel and make one state solution. That's the only real solution. But Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I always got to say that. AOC or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I don't know why, but it's just hard for me not to say it that way. She's one of the signatories to this letter questioning U.S. aid to Israel amid escalating violence. Listen to what Ms. Cortez said. She said, the United States, now these are the Democrats, believe me, a good chunk. Let me put it this way before I read this statement, because this is, I was going to say it's shocking. It's not shocking. It's typical for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But if you're a Democrat out there, you may be shocked to learn this. But your party has been completely taken over by the hardcore progressive left. I'm not saying every Democratic voter. I'm saying the people you have elected to leadership are hardcore progressives and outright communists. The ones that aren't communists, like, I don't know if Cortez is even smart enough to be a communist, but that your party has been taken over. You can walk away, do all that, but I would encourage you to take your party back, because if you want to help me, my number one and only real political goal right now is to stop the progressive takeover of this country. So I judge you whether you're running for outhouse, White House, somewhere in between, Park Avenue, Park Bench, appointed, elected, whatever. I'm going to judge you based solely on whether you can help me stop the progressive takeover of this country. And Ocasio-Cortez is right at the heart of the progressive takeover of this country. Listen to what she says here about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. I got to take a swig before. And like one of them, I tell people all the time, I'm John Martin, not Dean Martin, so you can figure what this is. But one of my friends that actually produced this cross, Denise, told me, she said, you may need to be Dean Martin to get through Biden presidency. And she may be right. But listen to what Cortez said. The United States needs to take responsibility for the violence that we are supporting. We, talking about the American people. Democrats are always blame America first. We can't advance this idea that we are some neutral party. We, she's talking about you and me, neutral party in this situation if our actions are consistently targeting Palestinians. Targeting Palestinians. So the Israelis are targeting Palestinians. Yeah, they're targeting them, but I wonder who started it, man. Have you seen this? I told you it's hard to find video, but check this video out. It is Hamas rockets being fired into Israel. And of course, the Iron Dome of Israel has taken quite a few of them out. But check this out, and then we'll ask the question, who's targeting who? Check it out. I think you get the picture there. Well, that had to be Israel striking first, right? Ocasio-Cortez said, what did she say here? Consistently targeting Palestinians. So surely that video we just played showed Israel just shooting rockets into Gaza, man, starting the whole thing. My psychic sidekick, in case you hadn't met him, is Billy Bob Bass. He tells me that's not quite correct, sir. Billy Bob keeps me straight on the show. He's got a Twitter handle. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. Ladies and gentlemen, we are determined to stay in the public square. Even the liberal cutthroats algorithm, we're due praise to algorithm on Facebook and fact checkers and everything else. We're determined to stay in the public square, and we need your help to do it. But we're signing up to all kind of different platforms. We're on BitChute right now and Rumble and many others. And we're building our own platform that we'll be telling you more about in the coming days. But Billy Bob says that wasn't the Israelis firing at the Palestinians. Those rockets were in fact coming from Hamas. They started firing them first, and the Israelis counterpunch. That's what they do. Rarely, and I'm not saying never, but rarely do the Israelis strike first. The only times I can ever remember them striking, and I don't know if it's even true that they struck first. I'm trying to think of a time. It's possible. Some of my listeners can help me out on this. Chime in on Facebook and let me know, because I don't think they've ever really struck first. Now, maybe if they think there's some kind of attack pending, they might have acted, but I don't remember them really striking first. They're always fighting back, and they're dadgum good at it. So when you pick a fight with the Israelis, you better be ready. But Billy Bob, thanks for straightening that out, because surely if you listen to Ocasio-Cortez, the peaceful Palestinians were just sitting there, enjoying a picnic basket, and those dadgum Israelis just picked a fight with them. Now, I'm just reporting. You kind of figure it out. In a tearful speech to the House floor, oh, I love this next one, ladies and gentlemen. Now sit back, and because this may be shocking. maybe shocking. In a tearful speech on the House floor, Representative Rashida Tlaib from Michigan, the only Palestinian American in Congress and a supporter of terrorism, also said the U.S. government was turning a blind eye to abuses of Palestinians. Now, she's crying in there. Oh, my God. Well, you know, if you don't like what Biden, because she apparently thinks Biden is taking the wrong side, I'm not sure Biden even knows what side there is, man. I'll tell you this many, many times, but I say it bears repeating. I don't know that Joe Biden has an agenda, to be honest with you. I don't know. Now, I'm not saying his administration doesn't, but Biden's already accomplished everything he wanted to accomplish. He got to be president. That's all he ever wanted, to be president. The rest is kind of, you know, bedtime, man. I mean, I don't think he's calling the shots. I think it's the third term of Obama. But anyway, if Miss Tlaib is shedding tears because Biden is on the wrong side of these innocent victims, then maybe you should just do this to him.
And you win. And when your son looks at you and says, Mama, look, you won, bullies don't win. And I said, baby, they don't. Because we're going to go in there, we're going to impeach the motherfucker.
There you go. Just impeach the MFer. You know, I mean, good Lord, man. What a play actor these Democrats are. They crying. I mean, Ocasio-Cortez, you know, back when Trump was president, she's at the border going, oh, my God, the children, women drinking out of toilets. And where is she now? Crickets. But that's typical of Democrats. You remember Kamala Harris during the Trump administration was had binoculars and telescopes out there. Look what they're doing to the children. Look what they're doing to the children. And now when they ask her, you going to the border? She said, not today. Not today. No, not today. I mean, these people are so full of crap. Man. But don't worry, Tlaib. Let me reassure you, because I hate to see a grown woman cry like that. Let me give you a little pat on the back. Don't worry. Biden is still all for funding terrorists. He's doing it on a daily basis. I mean, he re-upped funding Iran, which is the biggest enemy in the whole Middle East to every peace-loving person. But certainly they want to wipe Israel. They want the pigs to be washed out to sea. You know, that country, Biden's giving them back. He's taking the sanctions off. Oh, just have your little nuclear bomb. It ain't no big deal. It's all equal, right? You get equal sides here. And he's funding Hamas and the terrorists, the Palestinians again. You know, Trump had cut all that. Biden's brought it back. So don't worry, Rashida, you don't need to cry. Biden's really on your side. A group of pro-Israeli Democrats also defended their positions on the House floor. Interesting. And this woman here, you know, I don't know that much about her, Representative Elaine Laura, Democrat of Virginia. Listen to what she said. Now, she's a Democrat. I want to remind you, I want to be fair. We as Americans, and me as an American and a Jew, must stand for what is right, must declare that Israel has a right to exist, that Israel has the inherent right to defend itself. Amen, my lady. I agree with you 100%. The only thing I would tell you, ma'am, is that if you really truly believe that, and I'm not questioning your sincerity, then you need to support Donald J. Trump and the MAGA movement, because the Democrats under Biden, they're not going to support. Didn't your group even want Benjamin, to speak in front of the House of Representatives? And I love this meme I found over the weekend. A good friend of mine posted it up, man. Check that out, man. It's a good thing that Biden is like weak and everything. Can you imagine if he'd have been strong for the last 47 years, what havoc he would have wrought? So maybe it's better that he is weak. But anyway, I'll say it again and we'll conclude this part of the show. Why would any person, Jewish or not, but especially if you're Jewish and you love Israel or you support democracy in the Middle East or anywhere in the world, why would you ever vote Democrat again? I'm not saying Republicans have all the answers, but I don't think there's this big division in the Democratic Party. I think the powers that be want to crush Israel, support their enemies, and basically it's the America sucks policy. It is the America sucks policy, and they put Israel right into it. If you don't know what I mean by that, the new mantra really of the Democratic Party, if they were honest, would be America sucks. It's always sucked. It sucks for some more than others. And if you vote for us, we'll make it suck for everybody equally. So if you're voting for the Democrats, you're voting to end the only democracy in the Middle East and our greatest friend and ally, Israel. Plain and simple. All right, let's move along. Check the time. Doing pretty good. Got another story here that just kind of busts out here because these Democrats, man, they don't believe what they preach. A lot of them. And this story kind of proves it. This is from the Washington Examiner. And I got to tell you, I have a hard time. I say ahead of time, I don't mean any disrespect. Maybe not. But I have a hard time with Buttigieg or Buttigieg. I get in trouble with his name. There's not too many Buttigieg's in where I live in Hawthorne. But Buttigieg says pipes are most efficient at moving petroleum. That's why we have pipelines. Well, wow. I'm glad it's so good that we have him as Secretary of Transportation because he actually believes in pipelines. Well, then why didn't you say that to Joe Biden? I mean, Buttigieg, man, this guy right here is not even qualified to be mayor, let alone a member of the cabinet. And I'm not talking about his sexuality and all that, because I don't give a hoot about that. I'm more about competence. As I've told you many times, when it comes to this, and of course he identifies and he says he's the first gay member of the cabinet, first one that ever talked about it. I guarantee you there's been a few down the line. But I don't have a problem with Buttigieg's sexuality. I've told you many times, but I have to clarify it every now and then. I got a simple policy on all those issues. Open mind, closed behind. I really don't care what you do as long as you don't try to do it with me. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg confirmed that the best way to move petroleum is through a pipeline. Wow, thanks for educating us. Buttigieg said that's why we have pipelines. Sounds like a bad episode of Sesame Street. Why do we have pipelines? So we can move petroleum more efficiently. That's why we have pipelines. Wow. Earlier this week, Energy Secretary Granholm, now we talked about her last week. I told you about how to see our podcast. It's blame America first, man. She said she literally had the audacity to say to people who are waiting in gas lines in places like Atlanta or in North Carolina or even in Florida for that matter, if, the problem is really you. If you had an electric car, you wouldn't be waiting in the gas line. I mean, what an idiot she is. But this is what she said, not to be outdone. She said this: pipe is the way to go for petroleum when moving oil from a particular area of the country to another. So pipe is the way to go. I'm going to use a Democratic term. If true that pipe is the way to go, then what pipe was Joe Biden on when he came in the White House and on his very first day in office killed the XL pipeline and put these people out of work? And they can go get jobs now building solar panels, as Kerry said, man. What pipe is Joe Biden on? He's on something, man. The very next day, U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Climate Change, so John Kerry, he also said they agreed that pipelines were more, listen to this. This is what John Kerry said. Let me try to do, I'll do his voice here. John Kerry, more carbon delivery efficient than trains or trucks or other forms of delivery. In case you didn't get that, I'll read it more normally here. More carbon delivery efficient than trains or trucks or other forms of delivery. More carbon delivery. I mean, what are they saying? Like John Kerry, more efficient. Why can't he just say it moves gas easier? Something like that. I mean, when you hear a guy like John Kerry talking to you in his elite Boston accent, don't you really understand and want to do this right here? You remember that one? I'm glad that President Bush wasn't hurt there. But I can relate to that. Don't you just want to throw something at Kerry, man, when he's up there going, more carbon delivery efficient than trains or trucks or other forms of delivery, man. I mean, these people are just so dadgum much smarter than us, man, right? I mean, look at the crises we've been in since Biden took office. I mean, the border is out of control. Gas prices are going through the roof. We had shortages, people waiting in lines like the 70s. The Middle East is going to hell in a handbasket. All of this in just what? The first 100 days, basically, of Biden? God help us. Do we need Donald Trump back or what? I'm not talking about voter fraud. We don't say the F word here. I'm just simply saying, and I'm saying Biden is the president, hook, crook, or whatever. He's the president. And what a S show it has been since he's been there. Can you imagine if we keep down this same track, what we're going to be like in 4 years, let alone another 6 months? I mean, good Lord, man. I mean, it'll be you talk about the pandemic, we'll probably have polio be coming back before long. It's just crazy. But this is the executive order Biden signed on his first day of office, killing the XL pipeline. The job creator, Joe Biden. This is what the part of the executive order said. The permit is hereby revoked. Leaving the Keystone Pipeline permit in place would not be consistent with my administration's economic and climate imperatives. Man, I'd like to take a shoe and throw it at the camera right now. It would not be with my administration's economic and climate imperatives. Just get you an electric car and shut the hell up. I mean, what else you want to do? I mean, go back to the Flintstones, man. We need to be peddling that Flintstone car. The only way we're going to reach those target goals they talk about is if we go back to the Stone Age. I'm just telling you the truth here. The truth, as my friend, one of our sponsors at patriotthreads.org says, the truth starts now here. And I'm there. I'm always going to tell you, it might be an opinionated fact, but it's a fact nonetheless. The company constructing the 1,700-mile pipeline, talking about the XL pipeline, which was expected to move roughly 800,000 barrels of oil a day, 800,000 a day, from Canada to the Texas Gulf Coast, already had more than 1,000 people working on it. Actually, it was like 11,000 jobs. These positions were subsequently eliminated. Now, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Canada is going to continue to produce that oil. And now that gas prices have gone through the roof and the price of oil, barrels of oil is going up, that's only going to make them produce more. Because one thing about the tar sands and those kind of shale deposits, they're more expensive to produce. So the higher oil and gas get, the more likelihood they're going to produce them. So Canada's still going to export that oil. The problem is, ladies and gentlemen, if they can't use the pipeline, then they're either going to do it by rail car, which we've already had one town up, I want to say it was in Montana, but don't quote me on it, about burned to the ground because they had a train wreck with some of that oil a few years ago. Trucking it with trucks across the border, which is, obviously you're burning a hell of a lot of diesel to truck the oil, or they're going to put it on ships and send it to China. And we already know what happens. They're still cleaning up from the XL Valdez, for God's sakes. So, I mean, this idea that the pipeline was some kind of destructive thing, listen to these experts. It was the best thing going. And, of course, they killed it. The Democrats, as I tell you, let me check my time. We got a few minutes left. The Democrats do not believe what they're preaching. I've shown you many, many examples of this. Like, for instance, Obama, the third presidency of Obama we're going through right now. He don't believe in climate change. If he did, he wouldn't have spent 15 to 30 million on a new home right on the beach in Nantucket. And Google, it's of the devil, I'm just saying, but Google, which is YouTube famous, check out our YouTube channel, John Martin Talks, spell it all the way out. But Google spent over $1 billion refurbishing and adding on to their corporate headquarters right on San Francisco Bay. If they actually believed in climate change, wouldn't they be going to Omaha, Nebraska or somewhere like that? I mean, it just makes no sense. But you want to show somebody who is a hypocrite and they don't believe what they're preaching. I want you to watch this next video. I got to set it up for you. This is Buttigieg trying to, I guess, do the right thing. He's going to join some type of bicycle in protest, if you will, or maybe it's for a good cause. Don't know the exact details, in Washington, D.C., right? Now, this is the guy who's all about saving energy and all that kind of stuff. He comes to the event in a Secret Service, big one of the, I don't think it's electric. There's two of them, actually. And he actually fakes like he's been with them and waits for the bike group to catch up. Then he joins them. Kind of like that lady that won the Boston Marathon a few years back. But check out the sincerity, the clarity, the moral righteousness of Mr. Buttigieg. And you tell me, check it out.
Right in a way. I didn't know think it's 415.
I think that's good enough. I think you get the picture. You know, they're always talking about Donald Trump playing golf. How much did that little fake bike ride cost us? They got 2 or 3 Secret Service vans there with probably a half a dozen or dozen agents in there. One of them's even riding a bike. Wouldn't you like to know what they're thinking about that? I know that they're just doing their duty, doing what they're told to do, but what do you think they're thinking about? That we got to pull this guy up here for this fake little ride. It's almost like it almost looked like a parent sending their kid off to school for the first time. Buttheads ride the bicycle. I don't even know, did he complete the ride or did they like pull him out around the next corner once the cameras were off? I don't know, man. But I got to show you this next picture here. I got to set this up before we show it. But Butthead, and I don't get to show this too often, but this is one of the funniest things that came out of 2020. It shows characters representing the 2020 Democratic field. Can we put that one up? You know which one Buttigieg is, right? A guy from Mad Magazine. And of course, there's Biden down there, and Pocahontas and everything. And Bernie's unmistakable, man. I can't use that one much anymore, but man, that 2020 primary was a comedy show, except for the fact that they won by hook or crook. And man, I don't know. It's sad, man. It's sad. Well, I don't have any time left, but the story I'd like to put on your radar screen real quick is this Colonel, Lieutenant Colonel Mathau Loamar. Because I tell you, the Democrats don't believe in the First Amendment. I'm not going to get into the story. Maybe we'll cover it later in the week. But he's been fired from Space Force simply because he criticized the military and the wokeness of it. Check out that story because I think you'll find it interesting. I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to all our social media sites, like them, share it with others, share our show out there far and wide, push it as far as you can, support our sponsors because we need them. But above all else, ladies and gentlemen, like I say kind of every day here, I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. Man, let's all pray for this nation because, man, he definitely deserves it and needs it now more than ever. But like I say every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.